I think we'll make a start. So thank you so much for joining me. There's so many of you, which is so great to see. And I'm sure you're all starting to get excited now that the summer's coming up and university will be starting soon. So just going to do a quick overview for you all now of what we're going to look at this morning. So this session is just a quick wee presentation on transitioning to university and everything that's involved within that. We're going to be looking at reasons for going to university, how university may differ from college, living at university in general, and budgeting, and of course making the most of your time at university overall so that you get everything you possibly can out of your full 3 to 4 years depending on the course you're doing. So we're going to look at the reasons you may be considering going to university anyway. Now, a lot of people instantly look at the subject, but there's so many opportunities that surround this subject. So obviously you can do a subject that you love and that you're passionate about, but then there's also different elements that come into that. So university definitely gives you the opportunity to travel. That may be something some of you guys are thinking about already. We've obviously got study abroad options at Hope or study semester abroad, but then there's also different travel opportunities in the summer, and then also just traveling in general to go to a different environment. So I know myself, whenever I moved to Liverpool from Ireland 6 years ago now this September, which is crazy to think of, I knew that I wanted to get that out of my experience. I wanted to go away from home. So it could be anything from that to want to do a full year abroad away from the UK. University also gives you career progression. So I'm sure some of you guys may be doing a degree course or getting ready to do a degree course that you know will give you the exact career you want, or at least will be a stepping stone into the career you want. So this can be teaching. Some of you guys may want to do a master's and then a PhD and be an academic at a university. So it's really good just to get this initial insight to know that university will provide you with the support into going on to your desired career pathway. Also, independence and meeting new people, I think they go hand in hand. What's great about going away to university, especially if you're moving out from your home, is that you're gaining that independence straight away. You're standing on your own 2 feet, you're looking after yourself, and you're very much in charge of your own well-being. Now, this obviously may be a wee bit overwhelming at first, but once you get used to the idea and you settle in, it really is great. And it's something no one can take away from you. Your independence is something that you gain, and you never really lose. You just constantly build on it. And that obviously goes hand in hand with meeting new people. So obviously whenever you go to university, you'll meet all of your flatmates and your course mates, but it's this independence as well that helps fuel that even more. And you'll find the more people you meet, you'll want to get to know even more people, and then you'll just really thrive and flourish socially too. Obviously, character development and social skills, again, I find they go quite hand in hand. So when I moved to university, I was really shy and I didn't know anyone in England. And 6 years later, that's definitely changed. And it did only take a few weeks really to settle in and to get used to that idea as well. And with that came obviously lots of social skills. So you're getting a lot more better at striking up conversations with people. You're getting more confident as well with talking to people that you wouldn't normally speak to. And you're pushed almost in a way when you're at university to be more sociable and to get more involved with social activities, whether that be through the Students' Union or through any other outdoor pursuits you may do or any like socials you're in. It really does just encourage you and push you in the right direction. So we're just going to quickly look at how university may differ from college and also high school if you're in high school at the moment. So your teachings at university are a mixture of the following. So you've got lectures, seminars, tutorials, lab work, depending on your course, group work, and independent study. I'll also add in there, I suppose, the opposite to lab work would maybe be rehearsals if you're a creative arts student too. So we're going to look at these in more detail. So obviously at school or college, you may have a timetable and you may go from lesson to lesson. You may have a break one day. Some of you guys may have like a triple period of free time where you can study. University is similar to that, except there's a lot more moving around and there's also a lot more independence and freedom outside of your lesson times. So obviously with lectures, this tends to be a bigger group. So I'd say for most of my lectures, it would be 30 to 40 people. It really does depend on the course though. And it's obviously in a lecture theatre. And this obviously just involves a presentation from the academic to yourself. Now, some students like to write down notes, just pen and paper. Some like to record them and listen to them later on. And some like to just type up their notes on their laptop or whatever it is they bring with them to do that. What I like to do was print out the presentation in slide format, which you can do on Microsoft Word, because often the academic will put the presentations online in your student portal beforehand, and then I would annotate around it. And that just made it a lot easier for me to absorb all the information. Obviously, we're all different types of learners, so it's completely fine whatever route you decide to go to, so long as you're taking in the information at the right pace and what works for you. Then we've got seminars. Now, these are smaller classes, don't tend to be more than 10 to 20 from my experience anyway. And this is where you discuss further any material you covered in the lecture. And this is also where often you'll analyse the readings you're given. So if I can give you any advice, it's to do your readings at university. You'll be given readings weekly. It doesn't take that long. Take yourself off to the library on your study break or off to the canteen or a coffee shop and get your highlighter out and just get your reading done, because if you fall behind on your readings, it's essentially like trying to do your course with no independent research yourself, and you'll really want to get that, because that is what will help you understand it even more. And by the time you get to third year, you'll be so much more confident and so much more well versed in what you know. And then the last one is tutorials. So these are even smaller classes, so no more than 10 students, I would say. And this just means you have a lot more one-on-one time with your teacher, and it's where you can discuss ideas and you receive additional information regarding the curriculum and your assessments. So if there's anything you're maybe worried about in your course, you can talk to your academic then. I found a lot of the time in my tutorials, particularly towards the end of second year, we talked a lot about our dissertations, and that just meant that I was getting clued up on what I was going to do and the content early on, as opposed to panicking about it in third year. So they're the main three chunks of class styles that you'll have in university. And of course, if you have any questions about them, I'll take a few at the end, as I know sometimes if you're transitioning from a school or college setting, it can be a bit overwhelming to realize, gosh, I have to go from this to this. So just let me know if you want me to cover any of that further. So just talking a little bit more about independent study and wider reading in general. So independent study means that you can just develop your understanding further outside of your class. And I would really recommend really delving into your course as much as you can. I'd recommend maybe going to the library on your days off or anytime you have in between lessons and looking at books that aren't even maybe in your curriculum, but you still want to learn about. I find this was really useful, especially in the English language half of my degree, when I just wanted to expand on my knowledge. And obviously all of that will contribute to your dissertation as well in third year. And it just means you've got this wider pool of knowledge to reference from, and you'll just feel a lot more confident in your course in general. And that leads me on nicely to wider reading. So your tutors will give you a reading list. This normally isn't until you begin your course. And we don't tend to give a reading list beforehand, as we're aware people can change courses and things. So don't be expecting any this summer, but I would say when you begin the course, you will get a reading list. And again, this just helps you prepare for future assignments. It helps get your confidence and your knowledge up. And it just really, I find, boosts your enthusiasm for the subject as a whole. And I definitely felt a lot more passionate and a lot more engaged in my subject through doing this wider reading, going with that hand in hand with independent study too. So assessments again, they completely depend on your course and your year of study. So this is just a group of examples. So we've got essays, any practical assignments, for example, coaching if you're a PE student, or maybe a performance if you're a music or dance or drama student. Obviously presentations and projects as well. This can be like specific projects in your course that will maybe take place shortly before your exams as extra marks, and obviously group work too, and then final exams. So that is obviously quite a lot to choose from, and it does again completely depend on your course, but it's just good to bear that in mind. Now obviously all of this is spread out quite nicely, and it's not a case of it all being thrown at you in one semester. So in my course, which was dance and English language combined, I found I had 2 assessments for each of those subjects before Christmas. I think I had 2 as well for Easter. And then in the summer months, I had 1 for dance and an exam for English. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but what it is obviously these assessments are quite big chunks of your percentage for your final grade. So it is important that you prepare for them and that you're aware of them. And you'll be given a breakdown of the assessments and how you'll be assessed at the very start of your course in your introduction week. And that's why it's so important to attend your introduction sessions as well. And also just ask your tutors any questions you may have, just so that you're prepared for what's to come, and it'll just save any stress in the long term. Also at university, your study is much more focused. So unlike college, you only study one, or within my case, two, for a combined honours course. And what's great is as well, loads of subjects will give you the chance to do your own research. So you can specialise in exactly what it is you want to do. So for my third year in dance and English language, I wanted to look at disabled dancers and how they communicate through their choreography. And that is something that none of my classmates did, because we all did completely different things. So that's just a wee example. It just goes to show that you can really push the boat out. And what I will say is the academics at Hope are fantastic in supporting you in that as well. And they're really encouraging of you thinking outside of the box and doing a research project that maybe has never been done before. And they really do give you that right support and encouragement and the resources you need as well to complete your project. Obviously, they're normally 3-year degree courses, but they can be 4 if you choose to do a placement year or a work placement opportunity or even a study abroad. So I would definitely look into that if you want to extend your course. But it's just good to know you have the chance. And if you want to just keep it to the 3-year degree course, that's absolutely fine as well. Some of you might also be doing foundation year as well, additionally. So that is just the extra year at the beginning. So just a little bit more about living at university in general. So obviously you've got a few options already. You can stay local to your family if some of you guys are in the Northwest or just in the surrounding areas, or you can move out to halls. Now, this completely depends on your financial status as well. Now, obviously I needed to move to halls because there's no way I was going to be able to commute from Northern Ireland every single day. But some of you guys may be in Manchester or any of the local areas like Southport and things. So it may be just a case for you to have a train journey every couple of days, but that's something that you just need to look at if it suits your lifestyle, if it's something you're willing to commit to, if you're happy knowing that you're not going to go live with the people from your course or in the university environment. And some of you guys just may be homebirds, and that's absolutely fine. With that comes potentially studying overseas. So that may be something you wish to consider, but perhaps later on in your course. And that's the advice I tend to give to everyone. If you're already nervous about moving out of your family home, maybe give it a year or two before you do, say, a study abroad if you want to, or a placement year overseas, because that just means you've got a bit of a foundation in university in general, and you've got the confidence and the social skills too. And that will also come with encouragement and confidence from growing in your course as well. Obviously, you'll want to look at travel costs too. Is it going to cost a lot for trains? I definitely had to take flights and boats into my account. So obviously traveling to and from home at Christmas time, I had to budget obviously for that. Now, you'll find a lot of the time it's not too expensive if you book in advance. And I do remember the cheapest flight I ever got was £17 and the cheapest boat I ever got was £10. So that's definitely an option if anyone's listening who's from Northern Ireland. It is completely doable. Just do book it ahead. Even if you're, say, from down south, say you're traveling up from somewhere like London or even further down, or if you're coming up from, coming down from anywhere far up in the northeast, do look at trains ahead of time and do maybe invest in a rail card. If you're with Santander, I think you can get an 18 to 24 rail card, which is great, and it saves you a lot of money. So if you do want to go home on the holidays, you've got the chance to do so. Obviously, campus-based or city-based university. So ours, we would say, is the best of both already. You don't have to worry too much about this because we have our Hope Park campus, which is just outside of the city centre, but we also have our Creative campus, which is in the city centre, and then Egbert Park Accommodation, if anyone's staying in there, that's just 10 minutes from either side. So we really do have the best of both worlds in that you can mix and combine them both. If you want to just stay a little bit out of the city centre, that's absolutely fine, and you can live in Chilwell. And if you feel like you're a city person, the Creative campus is a great option too. And Liverpool in general, there's some parts of the city you don't even feel like you're in Liverpool. There's loads of parks and things, as I'm sure you've seen from our other sessions, your guide to Liverpool, which will be sent to you guys in a recording soon. It just really shows there's so much variety and versatility in the city as well. And then this obviously goes with accommodation. So some of you guys may already have an accommodation space, or some may be going to private accommodation, which is absolutely fine. But just do take this into account that you'll have different rules and regulations for those accommodations. So for example, at Hope, we have residential tutors who live in the accommodation with you. They'll be in your block often or just your building, and they help look after you, and you've got 24-hour security. Some private accommodations may not offer this. They may offer security only during the week or certain times of day. They may not have a residential tutor, or they may do. So it's just good to check this beforehand so that if there's any last minute changes you want to make, you can do so. And then obviously ensuite or shared, going in with accommodation, you'll always have your own bedroom, don't worry about that. But you may find you might prefer an ensuite room this year, and then be happy sharing later on. You may be happy moving into a house in your second year, but Hope obviously don't refuse to let you in to come back to accommodation in your second year and above. And we do have a campus for second years and above, and that's our Edworth Park campus. It's like a little student village if some of you guys are already registered with it. So I stayed in halls the whole time and I absolutely loved the experience. But everyone's completely different. You may want to have your own house. You may want to get your own studio apartment later on. And this also depends on your course too and how intense it is and what you feel your lifestyle in general will be. So I hope that's food for thought for now regarding accommodation and campus life in general. This again is just a little bit more about our accommodation. If any of you guys weren't aware of the prices or if you haven't confirmed your accommodation yet, this is just good to know. And this is all on our website as well if you do want to take a little look, but it's just good to know you've got these resources at hand. There's obviously a small price difference in accommodation if you haven't looked into that yet. So if you're someone who does prefer to have your own bathroom, you will just have to compromise in terms of paying a wee bit more. But I definitely recommend you go onto the accommodation page on our website and have a proper look at this. Maybe sit down with your parent or guardian and work at budgeting as well if you haven't done so already. Again, these are just some images. These are all on our website, by the way, guys, if you do want to take a look at them. So we do have a virtual tour of campus if you just want to have a quick look around. I know we covered this in our previous sessions this week, and like I say, they will be sent to you, but it's just good to get a general idea of campus before you arrive. Like I say, with school and college, it can look quite different. Although we are a small university, it is really reassuring as well to know that we're still small in the sense that you can get around quite easily, and it's not too overwhelming. So it's just good to get sort of a glimpse into the life here. So these are just a few more tips of what to bring with you to university. We do have a packing list on our website, which you can check out. But these are just the main things you may want to list for now. Obviously, important documents, your acceptance letter, you may just need this for future reference. Obviously, your passport or any other ID and your accommodation contract. I would also bring any other personal documents you feel are necessary to you, maybe for your well-being, any medical documents you need. Also electricals, just make sure they're PAT tested, and you can check the university guidance on our website too. For things like kitchen utensils, I always say, like, get it when you arrive. So my dad moved me in on the first day and we just went to Home Bargains and Tesco and we got all of my stuff then. And that was just a lot more handier than having to bring it all over, obviously from Ireland anyway. But if any of you guys are driving up, it may just be good to wait until you get here and then you can make a list and go off and do your shopping then. And you'll find as well, as the months go on, you start to share more with your flatmates. And especially if you go into the second year and maybe get a few flatmates together for a student house or for another student apartment, it's just good. You can maybe keep a few of the pots and pans from there and just share them out if you feel comfortable doing so, of course. Moving on to your bedroom as well. So you do need your duvet. You may want to bring a laundry basket and various storage. But you'll see on our accommodation pages anyway, you obviously have your wardrobe and you've got your desk and things. You've got drawers under your bed as well. So this is just good for extra storage. But that's why it's so handy to maybe look at the list first of all and just bring what you need. That merges nicely into bathroom products. So obviously you're given your bathrooms, but you do need to bring your own like utensils and things for the bathrooms. So like things like toilet roll, obviously you have to buy yourself, any shower products and things like that. And you do obviously have to clean your bathroom yourself. You only have a cleaner that does your communal areas, so like your hallway, and they'll give you your bin bags for the week. Obviously clothing. What I find as well is a lot of people overpack for their first semester. So I used to just bring my autumn to winter clothes with a few summery outfits just in case the weather changed. But you'll start university on autumn, so the weather does get cold very quickly. So that's just good to bear in mind. And then what you can do is when you go home at Christmas, you can maybe bring a few things back, but it does still tend to be quite cold, obviously, in the UK from January to March. And then when you go home again at Easter, you can switch up your wardrobe again. And then the last one on the list is obviously stationery. Like I mentioned before in our lectures, you can record lectures any way you want. You can do it on a laptop, you can do it just through listening or writing, but do bring a good variety of stationery with you. You just never know when you need them. Just a little bit more on budgeting to finish us off. So we are going to do a full student finance section the week after next. So keep an eye out for that in your emails. But it's just good to have a little insight for now. So obviously tuition fees are £9,250 for full-time students, and your tuition loan will pay that. So you won't see any of that. And then you'll already know if you've applied for it that your maintenance loan depends on household income. And this obviously pays for your social life, everyday living, and your accommodation. But again, that will all be covered next week. This is just something I did want to quickly cover because I know some of you guys may be worried about it, and it may be the only thing maybe holding you back from being a bit more confident about your money at university. But it is good to know that repayments don't start until your income is over the threshold of £26,575. And with that, you only pay 9% of your income when it comes to paying your full student loan back after you graduate. So my example is it comes out of my paycheck. So I only pay like £7 a month at the minute. It doesn't come out as like a separate bill. So the way I like to see student loan payments is like an additional tax. And any outstanding low balance will obviously be cancelled 30 years after entering the repayment process. And if at any point in your postgraduate life, should your income fall below the threshold, your repayments stop completely. So it's not a case of being chased for your money or anything like that at all. So I do hope that reassures you you're entitled to this money. You're a student. It's obviously a student loan and maintenance loan, and we wouldn't be giving you if you weren't entitled to it. So try not to worry about that too much for now. Like I said, we will do a session next week. So any worries or queries you have will be answered. And we're also doing a drop-in session for student finance next week. So if you need any additional help, what I'd say for now though, just as a bit of advice, do look into budgeting. If you have an idea of how much money you're going to receive from student finance, take a look at that. This is just an example of the repayment table I was talking about. Don't worry too much about it, but I'll just go to the lowest here for now. So say you graduate from university and within a couple of years, you're earning up to £26,000, just over that. It'll show your monthly repayment still is zero. It's when you go up a little bit more, that's when it tends to climb up a little bit. But this isn't something you'll have to worry about just yet, but it's just good to bear in mind for now. There are obviously additional financial sources to help you. So we've obviously got bursaries available. Now this is linked to your personal circumstances, and any of these awards can just include discounted tuition fees, accommodation, or cash itself. And then we of course have scholarships, which some of you guys may have already applied for. But these are obviously limited in numbers. So if you do have any queries about scholarships, give our inquiry team an email if there's anything you're worried about to do with yours. I think a lot of them have already been sorted already with some of you guys, but it's just good to double check. Another source on here that isn't shown is actually our hardship fund. So the hardship fund is a lump sum of money given to students who are maybe in financial crisis or strain for their degree course. You will have to obviously apply for it. So when you start the university, you can check this at the gateway desk. And what you do is you put together just a little form of why you need the additional money, why you're in a financial crisis, and what you will need the money for, obviously. And then you're just given a lump sum and you don't have to pay it back. So this is just good to bear in mind. So I'd maybe note that down if you guys are taking notes now. We do have a hardship fund available for those students who do need it. This is just an example of essential expenses, maybe, just to give you guys an idea for now. It completely depends on, obviously, your time at university, what course you're doing, what type of student you are. For example, you could be a student still living at home, so you're not going to have to pay any money for transport. Or you could be a student living away. You may have to still pay for flights and boats home like I did. Again, food, this can completely vary. I found, because I'm vegetarian, a lot of the food is actually cheaper, but again, this can still be a bit more expensive because it depends just what you're buying. If you're buying any fancier vegetarian options, for anyone who's vegan, obviously it can be a wee bit more expensive for certain dairy replacements. I know oat milk is a lot more expensive than semi-skim milk, so that just completely depends on your dietary requirements, but that's just a wee example. Things like phone bills as well. Obviously, your phone bill is something you may be paying for years, but it's just good to bear in mind within your monthly costs. And again, things like textbooks and stationery, it may not be £100, it may be a lot less. It completely depends on your course. And sometimes you don't even have to spend money on textbooks and stationery. You've obviously got the library, and you've got the library in the city centre too, if there's anything that's not in the library at university on campus. So it's just good to bear that in mind. This is just a complete guesstimate really on what we know students tend to spend. For example, laundry, £120, that may not be the case. It maybe just depends again on the type of student you are. If you're someone who is spending a lot on obviously washing your clothes, if you're going to football practice and netball practice every single day, if you're a dance student and you need to wash your clothes after every single lesson, just bear that in mind. But what I would do now is maybe write a list of the stuff you'll know you'll be doing. For example, dance practice, sport practice, going to the gym. If you're a social person, how much are you going to put into nights out and things? And that way, when the money does start to be spent, it's not so much as a shock. Definitely in your first year, and definitely when you're moving away from home, it can be a huge adjustment budgeting your own money. So it's just good to take the extra steps now to be really prepared in that. Now we've just got some money saving tips here. So obviously my main one is cooking and shopping together. Obviously, as you get to know your flatmates even more, you'll find you'll share a lot of the cooking. You can batch cook as well if some of you guys like the same meals. And you can also do really fun flat meal nights. We've had some students do come down with me as well. And that's just a really great way to save money if you're all chipping in for the one meal. And let's say one meal can make up to 4 or 5 portions. That also goes with bulk buying and bulk cooking as well. And I'd find I'd love to make a meal on a Monday, and I would just freeze it, and then I would use it as the weeks went on, which was really good. Obviously, like I mentioned before, sharing essentials. So as time goes on and you get to know your flatmates better, you can share different utensils and things. Also sharing milk, that's kind of a given at university. Me and my flatmates used to like leave a couple of quid on the table every week, and whoever could would buy the milk. And that obviously just goes hand in hand with just getting on with your flatmates. You don't have to do these things, but it does just make the whole experience of living with other people a lot easier. Also staying on the food train, having a weekly food plan, buying own branded goods. I'd always say go to Aldi or Lidl, they're just the best shops. Tesco and Asda aren't too bad, but if you do just want to get some bargains and some good quality food that tastes exactly the same as branded items, it's really good just to check them out before. What I like to do before I started university was I would say to my mum if I could just have a go at doing the weekly shop or make a couple of the meals for the family that week. And that just gets you in the right headspace and also gives you the confidence to be in the kitchen. I know it can maybe be a bit overwhelming if some of you guys haven't cooked a lot before, or if you've just had meals with your family or your guardians, like it is just a good idea to plan ahead and get to know it now. Like I mentioned before, budget your week. What type of student are you? Are you going to be socializing a lot? Are you going to stay in a little bit more? Look at obviously the prices of places in Liverpool. Liverpool is quite a cheap student city, but it is still good just to plan ahead so that you know the areas maybe you don't want to go to in town that are a little bit more pricey, and the areas that you're more than happy to spend money on. Check a look at student discount now ahead of time. You're all entitled to an NES card and you will have your student card anyway when you arrive. Another great app is obviously Student Beans too. You can get that on your iPhone. And I just like to keep email alerts on for any other companies or websites that have like student discounts that I know come through. Obviously the likes of ASOS. Sometimes certain supermarkets will do student deals too. And what's great again about Liverpool, there's something for every night of the week. So a lot of places and restaurants and pubs and things will do like student nights, or like pub quizzes will do like student discount if you could buy a certain amount of drinks and get a meal. It's really good just to keep an eye out. But that's something you'll get to know as well when you attend our Freshers Fair too. There's obviously a lot of discount codes given out then. There's a lot of vouchers as well. So it's just good to bear that in mind ahead of time. Then the last two things, obviously sharing laundry loads. So if you don't want to spend a lot of money, if you only got a little bit of laundry to do, but you need clean clothes for the following week, maybe share with your flatmate. Obviously, if you're happy with mixing your items and your colors and things, just be precautious with that sense because you don't want to mess up their clothes and vice versa. And then obviously public transport. So Liverpool in general is quite cheap anyway. for public transport. And we do have the free shuttle bus that goes between campuses, but it's just good to bear in mind how much it'll cost you. So again, look at the type of student you are. Are you going to be going out 2 to 3 times a week? Are you going to go out once a week? Is it on a weekend where the taxi fares will be higher? Uber is obviously really, really good for getting home safe at night. I would always say get a taxi home, maybe an Uber, because you can track it. But you do obviously have the buses in the city that are 24 hours if you're traveling in a large group, but we would just say get a taxi if you can. It's just safer and quicker. But it is just good to know as well, if you're the type of student who likes to go out a lot during the day, take a look at the bus prices too. Liverpool's not too bad, to be fair. It's under, I think it's around £4.20, if I'm not mistaken, if it doesn't change, for a day return. And that's like unlimited around the city on our Arriva buses and our Stagecoach buses. And then for a student single, I think it's £180 to £190. So again, not too bad at all. And you can just pay on the bus as you go and plan out your day nicely. So I would just take a look at all of these for now and just see where you can invest your money and where you'll feel it'll be most beneficial to you. Things to avoid: do not shop on an empty stomach. This is something I used to do all the time after university. I'd come like out of lectures and go do a food shop, and I'd be starving after a full day of working. So it's good to just plan your shopping time out. Obviously you can buy bits and bobs, but I would tend to do my weekly shop on like a Sunday afternoon when I'd eaten, when I wasn't in the mindset of wanting to buy loads of things. Cash machines that charge you, there's a lot of these in the city centre because it's just convenient. But do bear this in mind, it can add up to having to spend £190 just to take out a tenner for a night out. You're spending more money where you could just walk a little bit more, or just pay with a card in the place and spend less. Impulse buying: when you get your student loan, it may be a lot more money than you expect. I know I'd never had that amount of money before. And I just used to have to avoid maybe going shopping when I was just bored. That's just the hard truth, unfortunately. You will not regret it though. It will be so much handier whenever it comes to like certain points in the term where you want to go out and celebrate. Say you want to celebrate a good assignment, or you just want to have like a spontaneous meal. Do keep a little pot of money aside if you can. And this goes hand in hand with overspending on your first week. So you will obviously get your student loan, budget this. I would say budget it immediately, plan it out, because a lot of students will maybe spend a bit more money and they won't have enough for the rest of the weeks. And that's when they'd maybe need financial aid too. So you can avoid this, try your best. It helps if you're already budgeting your money over the summer, if you've got a summer job, but it's just good to bear this in mind. Again, spending money meant for rent. Your accommodation fees tend to come out within the first few weeks of the semester. I like this because it meant that the rest of the money I could budget, and it just meant that I wasn't panicking about money for the next week and that. So I think, as an example, maybe to give you all, because you may be curious, so I would get around £800 a semester. That would be after my accommodation. So I'd get 1,800. I would use the 1,000 for my accommodation, and then the rest would be for me. Now, £800 for 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, is actually quite a lot of money as a student. Because if you think about it, all your rent's paid, all your bills are paid. The only thing I had to worry about was food, travel, and any additional things I wanted to do. So I would budget for like £50 a week, and that would be my food as well. But that's because I shopped at places like Lidl and Aldi and things. Like, I wasn't going to really expensive places. If I was buying drinks on a night out, I would always try and get a deal, or I would like to like share a picture with my friends or something. And maybe if you don't drink at all, you'll save a lot more money anyway, because soft drinks are cheaper. But I used to just try and really keep saving my money weekly. So if I didn't spend the full amount of money that I budgeted for that week, it would go into the next week. And it just meant at the end of the semester, I had a little bit of money spare. I also worked part-time, so I worked in the theatre. We'll do a few more sessions on that as the weeks go on throughout the summer of jobs on campus, but I worked in the Capstone Theatre, and that was good money as well. So I used to use my wages just as like additional spending if I wanted to buy something or treat myself. But again, it's having that mental line of not impulse buying, but knowing maybe when you deserve a wee treat, maybe towards the end of the semester, or if you get a good grade in an assignment. Just being responsible with it and budgeting it out is the best advice that I can give for now. But like I say, just good to plan ahead. You're in the perfect time to think about finances, and you've got the summer as well to save up any money that you want to, especially if some of you guys work part-time already. This is just a wee game we used to play with people, but I'll put the prices on for now. just so you can see. So just want you to have a little think about what all of these might cost. I know some of them may surprise you. I used to think washing powder was a lot more cheaper and cheese was a lot more cheaper. But it just turns out, we go to the next one, 70p for mixed vegetables. Again, it's crazy because you can make a full meal out of that. I would say pre-university, I used to think that was much more expensive. Mobile phone bills, these can completely vary. My bill was only £20 a month at university. I knew people who had it a lot cheaper. Food, now takeaways, Domino's is actually very expensive. You will get some Domino's vouchers at your freshers fair, but this is just an example. It can be a wee bit pricey for a small pizza. So if you're planning on having a pizza night, definitely share with your flatmates. And I just try and find the next one to come up. Oh, the milk. So £1.10 again for milk. It is starting to creep up in price. Like I mentioned before, for anyone who gets a dairy alternative, I think they're around £1.80 for like oat milk and almond milk. So good to bear this in mind if you are wanting to share these little things with your flatmates. Now books, again, £30 to £50. I wouldn't take this completely because as accurate, because a lot of the time these books are already in the library and you can get them secondhand. But for some of you guys who maybe need a lot more, like I'd say maybe medical based books, they tend to be a lot more expensive if you're doing a medical based subject. A lot more of the arts and culture books we would have on campus or in the central library. But I would say check on eBay, check on Amazon, see if anyone locally is selling their old books, just to save you the money, because it's the exact same thing. It makes no difference at all in what you'll learn. Now chicken, obviously meat is a lot more expensive. That's why I said being veggie is a little bit cheaper sometimes. Now this can vary. I know in Tesco it's £3.50, but in the likes of Lidl, it can be a little bit cheaper. So that's why I'm saying try and do like a practice shop now whilst you're living at home, and you can just get a better idea. Bread's actually a lot cheaper than I used to think, and bread's obviously a staple for a lot of people. I would mention as well for bread, try and go to the supermarkets either early in the morning or around 5 o'clock, because that's when the yellow stickers come out, especially in Tesco. So if Tesco's the most convenient to you, definitely check it out during those times and you can save a lot of money. So getting involved at university, this is just a little bit more about what you can do. Obviously, like I mentioned before, the transition from school to university can be a big one and it can be quite overwhelming. So it's good just in your first few weeks to settle in and to explore all of these different options. The Students' Union, these are a group of guys you'll be really close to, especially in the first few weeks. They're the ones that manage your freshers fair. They're also home to all of the social clubs and activities on campus, so you'll get to know them quite well. And you have within the Students' Union, obviously your residential tutors, and they're the staff members that live with you on campus. Like I mentioned before, study abroad, definitely check this out if that's something you're interested in now. There's a whole section on our website, and any additional like extracurricular activities such as our Service and Leadership Award. That's our voluntary award. We spoke about it in our welcome presentation this week, if you wanted to check that out in the recording. But that's essentially an award you'll get at graduation from a bulk pack of hours you'll do with a voluntary organisation or with an employer as well. Global Hope, that's again hand in hand with travel opportunities at university. So that's where you go abroad in the summer for up to 3 to 4 weeks within your subject area. So with my dance course, a lot of the students went to Sri Lanka and they taught in an orphanage for a couple of weeks, and they also taught in a school. And again, that's just a really good opportunity if you want to study abroad at some point, or you want to go abroad in your university experience, but you don't want to go for the full year. If you just want to do it in the summer months, that's just a really good chance to take a look at where you can just broaden your horizons in terms of traveling during your degree. We obviously got Duke of Edinburgh Gold. So this is new. It's only been there around for a year or so. You can find out more about that on our website as well. Duke of Edinburgh, it's one of those things, if you maybe started it at school and you didn't get a chance to finish it, you can finish it off of us. And we often go to like the places such as Wales and things, or maybe a bit further down south to complete the full course. So it's a really good opportunity as well to mix with other people from the university community. And then just the city of Liverpool in general, I always say to people, try and come. I know obviously at the times at the moment with various restrictions and things, it will be a bit difficult, but once you can, do try and come before you start, just to take a look around the city. Some of you guys may have done that already, or even just look online and try and just get a glimpse of city life and what your life changes will be, especially if you're coming from a smaller town or village like I was. It's just good to prepare this in advance. So that sums up the presentation nicely. We've got all of our contact details on the screen. We take all of our inquiries between 9 and 5, Monday and Friday. And if you do have any additional inquiries, you can obviously message our social media teams. They're all on the screen now. I'm more than happy for you guys to do that if something pops up in your head later on. But what I'll do now, I'll just stop sharing my screen and I will take some of the questions that have popped in the Q&A box.